It's time for the autumn semester of Book Roast's Magical Readathon. We're once again headed back to Orilium, and I personally will be getting back in touch with my character Uula, who is currently working on 3 callings because apparently theming and character design matters more to me than sleep or my mental health. I've already played my own TBR Tailspin game for the month, and that gave me a decent number of prompts. And having looked now at the Orilium classes, I actually think I've lucked out. I am going to have to add another batch of books on top of those, but I think everything I already had will work doubled up into at least one of the prompts, so I'm not going to have to knock anything off the list. And I don't think at the moment there's anything I'm putting here that I'm not excited to read. There's nothing I've picked purely to fit a prompt. They are all books I was interested in, I already owned, or I had on my TBR. I'm going to start with Ulla's major, her main calling, which is Aeldian Excavationist. For this, she needs a D, so all 3 tiers, in Animal Studies, and a Q, so 2 tiers, in Restoration. For her ordinary level, we're doing Crown Magic, and we have to read a book that has either antlers or horns on the cover. For this one, I've picked The Salt King by Natasha Pulley. I wasn't entirely sure if these were meant to be antlers on the cover at first, although that's the impression I definitely got, but I have done a little bit of Googling, and from the sounds of it, the antler sign is an important part of the religious world building in the story, and these shapes on the cover are definitely meant to combine antlers with salt mines. Salt King is a queer historical where we have a Jesuit priest sent to a small town where mysterious events are happening to do with their salt mines, and then finds out that these mysterious events are also happening around the world. For Q, we're studying Magical Zootechnics, and the prompt is to read a book with a farm animal on the cover. For this one, I am going to put Ginger Bolton's 9th book in the Deputy Donut series, Blame It on the Beignets. This one has a cat on the cover, and in my head, cats are definitely farmyard animals. They're there to work as mousers. This is a series that I've been plodding along with. In terms of releases, we're up to book number 10. I would really like to get caught up on the series by the end of the year. This will fit for my own personal cozy mystery bingo challenge. I definitely have a couple of squares that it could work for. This series follows Emily, who at one point was a 911 call operator. When her police officer husband is killed in the line of duty pre-series, she decides to take a break from all that and she opens up a cafe named after her tabby cat, Deputy Donut. The series tends to star a lot of first responders as supporting characters. We have police officers, firemen, paramedics, and I think that adds a level of believability to some of Emily's investigations. Next, we're studying 3-headed creatures and reading a book that is part of a trilogy. It came off my original TBR for the month. So we're double dipping here with Where the Shadows Hide by Amy Clarkin. This is the 3rd book in the Paranormal Surveillance Ireland series. These are YA books that basically follow a group of Ghostbusters in Ireland while they deal with lots of complex past traumas. We have a really nice batch of representation in the book, from bi to asexual to hard of hearing. In this particular instalment, our team are hired to go aboard a luxury cruise ship where inexplicable events have been occurring. I'm really looking forward to this one. The subject of restoration, our O-level class is Cardiac Biomancy, and the prompt is to read a book with a heart on the cover or a heart in the title. For this, I've picked Cancer Eats the Heart by Paul Jessup, so this will be starting to get me hopefully into some slightly spookier Halloween themed reading. I'll probably save this towards the end of the month. This is also going to fit for one of the Buzzwordathon cover prompts, maybe January's, which had to have some kind of internal organ on the cover. This is set in a rustic, rural, crumbling town and a similar house. We have a protagonist who is fighting her own battle with cystic fibrosis when a mysteriously vampiristic young girl turns up on her doorstep. For Q, we are studying Jitterjinx, and the prompt is to read a book with a verb in the title. So for this one, I've picked Mistakes Were Made by Merle Wilsner, which is going to be a reread for me and was one of the prompts on my TBR game. This is a sapphic age gap romance with a best friend's family member trope. In this one, our college age protagonist goes out one night and hooks up, and the next morning finds out that the woman that she is now interested in is actually her best friend slash roommate's mum. I remember really enjoying this one. The way it dealt with how awkward this situation would be in real life. It should figure nicely in amongst all of the fantasy that ends up on my Orilium TBRs. Once Uula has made her excavationist discoveries, she's gonna have to reanimate those bones with her Necromancer calling. For this, she needs an O in Animal Studies, a Q in Spells and Incantations, a D in Conjuration, an O in Restoration, and an O in Demonology. For Animal Studies in the O level, we're doing Crown Magic again with the antlers or horns on the cover. And for this second round, I've decided to go with The Antlered King by Marianne Gordon. This is the second book in a duology. It's the sequel to The Gilded Crown. I wasn't expecting to like that book. I thought it was going to be an immediate DNF, and I ended up rating it 5 stars. We're following a young girl who finds out she has necromancy abilities, but that every time she brings someone back, there is a physical cost to her and her own body. When the queen comes to her small village with her granddaughter, the princess, who has been assassinated, she's able to bring her back to life, but it also brings her to the attention of the royal family. They demand that she moves to the capital city and becomes their personal necromancer to make sure that any assassination attempts on the princess can be reversed. The book does a lot of things with this really toxic relationship that starts to build up, and with a lot of the religious conflict that is going on in the city. I'm really interested to see how the characters come back together in the second book, but also how the entire world kind of resolves itself. For Spells and Incantations, the first class I need to do is the O level, which is the Recollection Charm. This is to read a book that you added to your TBR last month. I'm going to put Saved by the Spell by Tanya Huff. This is one that I added once I saw it on NetGalley. I've read Tanya Huff before, really enjoyed her books. This one is, I think, more of a cozy horror set in a magical school and dealing with some of the day-to-day mundanity of this magical academic setting. For the Q class, we're doing Intuition in Spellwork. The prompt was to pick the 7th book you touched, so I just worked my way down one of my shelves and I got Bromantasy by Mira Roche. This was a pre-order that's now a couple of months behind. I was so looking forward to reading this and I just haven't got to it yet. The tagline is 2 heroes, 1 brain cell, which honestly is my favourite type of terrible romance. We follow Juniper and his BFF forever Mo as they take on a quest through a magical forest that they are both deeply unqualified for. This has a found family aspect, a friends to lovers. It just sounds like everything I want from my beautifully oblivious babies. The cover is also stunning. It just is so bright and so colourful and just emanates queer joy all over the place. For Conjuration, the O level is Conjuring Fog, a book with fog on the cover, and the D level is Emergency Messenger, which is to read a thriller. So I'm gonna combine these 2 prompts together. I'm gonna use one of the scrolls and use up some of my points, but I'm gonna put The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. This is one of the few Kingfisher that I haven't had a chance to get to yet, but it's one that I'm really looking forward to. I think it's one of her slightly more horror-y books, maybe along the lines of The Hollow Places, which is, if you watched my Kingfisher tier ranking video, one of my S tier books. So I'm really hoping that The Twisted Ones is going to be just as successful and is going to end up in the same spot. As far as I know, this is your traditional Kingfisher protagonist, a middle-aged woman who is going back to her family home in order to deal with some of the trauma and issues of the past that lie there, and meets some kind of supernatural or paranormal problem along the way. And for Distinguished, we are studying pyramids. We need to read a book that has a triangle on the cover. It was a challenge, but I've picked Every Step She Takes by Alison Cochrane. Might be hard to see, but there are some sailboats in the background here, and their sails are triangular. I've really enjoyed every book I've read from this author. She's become a real auto-buy, and this one's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I think this is one I'll try and get to relatively early. It sounds like it's just hitting that tail end of summer vibe, as we have a protagonist who is injured and goes off on a very eat, pray, love, finding yourself road trip to Portugal. I'm supposed to be studying restoration again, at least the O level, but I thought that to give myself some variety, I would use my points, buy a scroll, and switch this prompt out for a subject that I'm otherwise not studying. The 3 callings I've picked are quite interlinked and close, and there's a lot of subjects and prompts that double up on themselves. I thought it would be more fun to enjoy more of the Magical Readathon experience and shake up my classes a little. So for this one, I'm going to use a scroll to change the O in restoration to an O in psionics and divination. That means my prompt is chronoception and I have to flip a coin. The coin toss gave me a book in a series to read, and so I'll be putting Paladin's Faith by T. Kingfisher. This is the 4th book, the currently last book out in her Saints of Steel series. We are following 7 paladins, 1 paladin for each book. These paladins were sort of holy knights of a god that has died, and when that god died, the paladins went a little bit berserk and a little bit murderous, and they have a lot of trauma to work through as the 7 survivors. Each gets their own romance. In this one, we are following the paladin Shane, working as a bodyguard for Marguerite, and it seems that Shane is going to have to work to protect her from the people out to get her, while we also have a bit of a spy story and some political intrigue. Finally, for Necromancer, I'll be studying Demonology in the ordinary level. We'll be studying Shadow Sprites, and so I need to read a book that has Shadow in the title. I'm going to use my points to get another scroll, and I'm going to use it to double up on a prompt, slotting in Where the Shadows Hide by Amy Clarkin a second time. For my 3rd and final calling, once Uula has found and excavated these ancient beasts, use Necromancy to bring them back to life. She's going to need to use her Beastmaster skill in order to control them. For Beastmaster, I need an O in Elemental Studies, a D in Animal Studies, an O in Alchemy, and a Q in Restoration. For the O in Elemental Studies, we're doing Enchanted Forestry with a book that either has a forest on the cover or in the title. For this, I've picked Darkwood by Gabby, Hutchison Crouch. It's another one that's been sitting on my shelves for a while. It's a middle grade, which I don't get to that often, but I've heard really great things about this author, and in particular I've heard really great things about some of their adult series. But since this is the one I own, I want to get to this first. So I think this fits really well with the prompt. Not only is there clearly a forest on the cover, the forest or wood seems like it's going to be really important to the story, and it'll let me try the author before I go off and buy their urban fantasy, paranormal, adult romances. Then I'm back to Animal Studies, and again I have to do all 3 levels, so I'm gonna spend the points that I've been racking up, and I'm gonna buy 3 replacement scrolls so I can just switch out this entire line for a whole new subject that I'm not studying. Again, it's gonna give me some fresh prompts, and it's gonna let me feel like I'm taking part in more of the Orilium experience. So I'm gonna switch all of Animal Studies, just like for all of Shapeshifting. That means that for the O level, I'll be doing Shifting Replay, which is to read the most recent release of the author you're currently reading. I've currently been working through a T. Kingfisher binge along with Faye's Discord, and I'm currently reading The Clockwork Boys. So her most recent release is actually my most anticipated book of the entire year, and I'm gonna read Daggerbound. I was actually planning to get to this month to read it immediately after I reread its predecessor, Swordheart, but my book's been delayed. I'm fine with that. We were talking in the Discord about the fact that the Clockwork Boys duology has a character that's going to be really important to Daggerbound. It's been a really long time since I read that duology. I thought it might actually be a good idea to go back and revisit it, freshen it in my mind before going into Daggerbound. So that's paid off a little bit because I haven't got to Daggerbound yet, and it'll fit absolutely perfectly on this spot for next month. Qualified, the prompt was an emoji generator. Pick 3 emojis and find a book that is inspired by one of them. And the third one that came up was a sailboat. Technically I could probably have doubled up this with every step she takes, but I have a book from my TBR game that I want to fit in anyway. The book that I'm going to put here is Death on a Lively Sea by Katie Watson. This is the 6th book in her 3 Dahlias mystery series. In these books we follow 3 actresses of different ages. Each one has played the fictional sleuth Dahlia Lively at different points in various adaptations and use the skills they picked up being in Dahlia's head to take on investigative cases of their own. In this one, they've been hired to go aboard a cruise ship and preemptively solve the murder of their employer after his father's suspicious death. For the distinction, we're studying trends and patterns, and we need to read a book that has our favourite trope in it. This is a perfect prompt. My favourite trope is fake dating or arranged marriage, and so I'm going to read The Necromancer's Guide to Arranged Marriages by Katie Nyquist. This is the 3rd book in her Scandals of the Gifted trilogy, and the first book in the series, The Holy Maiden's Guide to Getting Kidnapped, was my favourite romantasy of last year. We are following a different romance with each book. This one is going to be an Achillean romance with a necromancer and a shape-shifting dragon king. Next, I need an O in alchemy and we'll be making health potions, reading a book with a red cover. For this one, I've managed to fit a short story in so that hopefully that gives me a little bit of time with all of the other books I plan on getting to. This is Like a Thief and an Assassin by Johannes T. Evans. I don't know anything about it. I really enjoy this author and their short stories, so I just bought a whole batch when they were selling them in bundles, and this is one that has a red cover. For the final subject I need to study, we are back to restoration again, and so once again I'm going to use some scrolls to give me a bit more variety, and so this time I'm going to switch the whole subject from restoration to astronomy. For the ordinary class, we are doing birth charts, and so we have to take the last 2 digits of our birth year, add them together, and then add them to 2000 to give us the year in which we need to find a book was published. This is giving me flashbacks to all of those infomercials I've seen over the years that tell you not to give your personal details out online, but for me, the year I'll be picking is 2016. I've managed to find another short story that I think will work here. Red as Blood, White as Bone by Theodora Goss. This is about a young servant girl who is obsessed with fairy tales, and then when a ragged woman comes to her door, she takes her in convinced that she's a princess in disguise. But I think it will fit really well maybe for the magical all-nighter to give me a break from some of the bigger books I'll have on the go. And then the very last subject I'll be doing is for the Q in astronomy, and that class is going to be twin stars and how to spot them. We have to read another book from the author that wrote our last 5-star book. I really thought that I'd be able to use Kingfisher again, which I'd probably have used a scroll to double up on because I was thinking Swordheart was my last 5-star read. But I had a look at my Goodreads shelf and my actual last 5-star read was just pipped it by a day. And it was A Skeleton in the Family by Lee Perry. This was a cosy mystery series where our protagonist is an adjunct professor. She's come back to her small town. She's finally got a job at the local university. She's moved into her parents' house with her daughter. And it just so happens that this family have a skeleton in the attic. Like an actual skeleton that is also, he's just a guy. He's part of the family, he walks, he talks. He's involved in the investigation. I loved it. I thought it sounded truly terrible, but I loved it. And the second book is The Skeleton Takes a Bow. So that'll be the final book on my Orilium TBR. Definitely let me know what classes you're taking at Orilium, what calling are you doing, how has that filtered through into your book choices. Let me know if any of the books that I'm reading are ones that you are interested in hearing about. And definitely let me know some of your own TBR choices for the prompts that I'm doing. I'd love to hear more about what my fellow students are studying. I really hope that I'm going to see you all on the Discord, in reading vlog updates. I'll be keeping my eye out for anything everyone posts, and I'll hopefully have some videos to put out too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.